They have a heart towards you where they want your life to be better just by them being in it. Who are they going to be, whether you're in the picture or not? Whether you get married to them or not, because there's but so much change you can change a person. You can only nudge them and guide them or encourage them to becoming who they are already on the path to becoming.
They won't tell you where you're going wrong. They just want you to feel like you're the best person ever. They don't correct you. They don't tell you that, hey, maybe you're going about this wrong. That's not what we're talking about.
All right, guys, welcome back or welcome back. So, in our previous episode, we talked about how there was no such thing as the one. But in this episode, we're going to give you some ideas, some tools on how to find the right person for you.
Yeah, so in episode 5, we touched on the fact that you could be misled thinking about the wrong types of requirements or focusing on certain factors that we called empty gestures and things like that. So we want to start off with the characteristics of a good husband or a wife. What should you be looking out for when you're going into marriage? And even for yourself, who should you focus on becoming? And I think that's probably where we should begin, because last time we ended off on don't just be looking for the one, but make sure that you are becoming the one for another person. So how do you become a husband before you're married, and how do you become a wife before you're married? We believe it's in that preparation season.
And honestly, a lot of the times you have to work from where you want to be. How do I explain this? You have to see yourself in that place, in that home, in terms of what is needed for that role. Like someone, and does not mean that who is around you currently has to perfectly fit. They can grow into it, but are they even on the path to grow? And like, are they on the path to grow into it? One or two, do they have a character that is teachable? Are they teachable in terms of wanting that for themselves as well? Is that what they aspire to become? Because that's a huge determining factor as to where you end up with this person.
Yeah. So number one characteristic would be being teachable.
Yes.
If you want to be, or if you're looking for a husband or wife, that's one that we think is very, very important, because we've mentioned training a few times, but that's what we do in this home.
Mhm.
We train one another. We train each other to understand each other. We don't subscribe to this idea of, if you really love me, you would know me, or if you really knew me, you wouldn't do this or that. Like, there's been times that we've fallen into that trap, but we've learned from it that it's not really helpful. You want to be able to train the person that you're with to love you and appreciate you in the way that you want, and you also want to be teachable in that regard. You can't just go based off of, oh, they're supposed to know me more than anyone else and all of that. The same way you don't know that person perfectly, they don't know you perfectly. So teachability, number one. What would you say about that?
Right. And just to, touch very briefly, also different backgrounds. Everyone has, different sense of what normal is.
Hmm.
For instance, a normal to me might be never being trained to take accountability based on what I grew up around. So if that's normal to you, I have to understand we have to have some level of marriage as to what is normal for our home. Unless, if not, we are both on different end of the spectrum, and that's where the
Right.
conflict happens.
Right. And some things are part of a person's character, and some things can be learned, unlearned, relearned, reshaped. I gave up a long time ago trying to get Oge to be on time for anything, because I learned that I prefer to be on time, or some might say early, for some things, whereas she's very spontaneous, and what is a clock? She doesn't know what that is. So so there are some things that are like, hey, we can at least attempt to teach. But the same way I felt like she needed to learn to be on time, I also needed to learn how to not take some things too seriously. Like, some places that we're late to, it ain't that deep. So, being teachable on both ends, in a nutshell, is the first characteristic that we want to address. What do you think is number two?
One aspect of actually being able to, with someone that is teachable, is them genuinely considering you, them caring about you. They have a heart towards you where they want your life to be better just by them being in it. There's a level of like, I love you, but it's not the It's not the cliche way that is, thrown around these days, but it's the I genuinely care
Yeah.
about you. Like, and whatever I'm doing within me that is not beneficial to you or might be hurting you, I'm willing to address that and take the right steps to change that. And it's not something that someone says all the time where they keep telling you, oh, I want to
I'll
change, I
change.
want to
Yeah.
change. No, it's something that they show, with time, passage of time, and them bringing the things that you said to mind. They might, like we talked about this a few episodes back, where they might not get it right as the moment you say it, but at least when you remind them gently and when you remind them in a tactful way,
Hmm.
ultimately, weeks, years, eventually they're gonna get it, because they want to please you, essentially.
Right.
They want
Yeah.
to serve you.
Yeah, that's part of service. So that that jumps straight into characteristic number two, I guess. Service is what is a trait that you should be looking for. Not lip service, just service. Lip service in terms of they won't tell you where you're going wrong. They just want you to feel like you're the best person ever. They don't correct you. They don't tell you that, hey, maybe you're going about this wrong. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about lip service. We're talking about actually serving you. And sometimes serving you can look like figuring out, or not figuring out, but knowing what is hurting you and bringing your attention to it. It could be like, hey, like you treat your finances this way. And this is before marriage, of course. You treat you'll find, or maybe in marriage, you treat your finances this way, but it's not really beneficial if we're looking to get married, or if we're in marriage, it's not really beneficial for our family. So maybe we need to take a step back and evaluate the way you're doing things. And that goes back to being teachable so you can learn, right?
Understanding service comes with a degree of understanding of the person that you're serving.
Mm,
I know we talked about how we don't necessarily believe in the five love languages, but ultimately try to tailor it towards how it benefits them. For instance, men and women are very different, and I'm not gonna go too far into that. But to him, like for instance, Jeremiah, you serving me might be, oh, I'm serving our family. I'm working hard to make sure that I can provide. You have men that say I work this many hours a week, but for women, we are wired to believe that spending time with us,
hmm
it doesn't always have to be going out and spending money or going on dates and stuff, but just you really like being with me. We might be could be in the same house, is what we translate as love. So yes, you want to do the practical things like working and providing and things like that. That's actually what pushes, the family forward. But when you are trying to translate your actions to love for somebody, you have to do the actions that they can interpret, not actions that you want to get them to eventually interpret as love, but ones
mm,
what try to get to know them and understand what they already naturally interpret as love.
yeah.
you
Yeah.
know
That's a really good point. And seeing service from that perspective, that it's not you just wanting to serve and do anything that you want to do in the name
yeah,
of service.
right.
It really has to do with the person seeing, if you go to a restaurant and you ask for sushi and they bring you, I don't know, mac and cheese,
An
they,
amazing steak.
yeah, they served you, but they didn't serve you what you wanted. And so you have every right to get upset that, hey, I didn't ask for this.
Right.
And so we might tend to do that in our relationships, where our husband or wife or our boyfriend or girlfriend is looking for a different thing, and we
Mhm.
just keep presenting this sushi, and they
Yeah.
hate sushi. They're
And
like okay, hating flowers, and I keep bringing flowers, like, hey, well, you're a woman, I'm bringing you flowers, you
and it
should be
just
happy. And like,
right.
I'm not.
And it ends up making me mad because I'm interpreting how I naturally interpret flowers, where it's like, oh, rather than just addressing the issues, this is like a mask. Like that's the way my mind is just naturally towards
Yeah.
flowers, especially when you bring in when you did something to upset me. Oh, he's just wanting to like just
No,
unnecessary,
dang.
exactly, unnecessary interpretation. So now you have to start explaining, no, this is not what I meant. This is what I meant, and then trying to get them to see the way you intended it. But ultimately, you could have just learned how, for instance, getting me, like chocolates or food instead. It's something
Mhm.
that I naturally.
Or a peach. She would take a peach over flowers any
I'll
day.
take a peach over a flower.
Yeah.
Yeah, something that I already naturally interpret as love. It will
Mhm.
save so much headache, so much
Yeah,
conflict.
and something that something that I interpret as service, or, and it might be a little unconventional, is like just leave me alone.
Right, right,
Sometimes the way you serve me is by
right,
not trying to serve me.
right,
It's like, oh, have you eaten? Have you done this? Have you done-" And I had to be like,
right.
listen,
Just
like I'm good. Like I just want to chill, grab me a book or something. Like I'm okay.
right,
And so this is all just to say you serving your person might not look like what you think. Just
right.
ask them, communicate, and be like, hey, what does it look like for me to serve you? And then go from there. And honestly, we can keep going on and on with this list of traits and characteristics and stuff like that. But we're going to do just one more so we can transition into some other aspects of finding the right person for you. And we think that one thing you should be very, very intentional about finding in a person is integrity.
Yes, them being who they like genuinely want to be. What I mean by that is that what they present both to you and to others is who they are behind closed doors. It's who they are to their family. And it's really hard to, put up a front in front of your family because that's your family. You grew
Yeah,
up,
they know
this
you.
they've seen you at your best and at your worst. And so you cannot have someone that is drastically different to you, but to their family it's like night and day.
Hmm.
It has to be some level of they are consistent in their behavior. They're consistent in who they are wanting to become, and they are true to that, because ultimately after everything dies down and all the butterflies leave your belly, you're gonna see who they truly are. But you need to make sure that those two are not like a demon and a prince.
Right,
you know
right. You want to also accept the person for who they want to be, not
yes,
the picture that you have in your mind. And accept doesn't necessarily mean date or marry them. It just means allow them to be who they choose to be.
exactly.
Don't take on this role or responsibility of changing
Or
a person
fixing,
or
exactly.
fixing a person.
Yes.
If somebody decides that they want to be shrewd or lazy or
Or
whatever or
dishonest.
dishonest, all the negative things that you can think of in a person you don't want. And there are other things that you like in the person. Maybe they care for you or they do this and do that, but like they're not fixing this other thing or they don't want to be those things. Just let it go.
Right.
Just let it go, because like we said last time, there is no the one. There is a kind of person, and clearly this person is not the kind of person that you want, so it's okay to just let it go.
Right. And one thing I wanted to touch on before we left, where we talked a little bit about how the person behaves in front of their family and things like that. I want to have give a discrepancy, as though, because there's some people that have really difficult family members, people that are difficult to deal with or to live with. So it's not necessarily, oh, judge them based on how they act when they're always being aroused in a sense of anger and frustration and feeling disrespected. But ultimately, someone that has made up their mind to be a certain way would see what is being presented to them and still decide
Hmm.
who they want to be. So if I choose personally that I don't want to be disrespectful, I don't want to be I don't want to be certain type, I don't want certain traits to be part of me. It there's some level of balance. There's some level of, yeah, it doesn't mean you're never gonna be that or never gonna yell or never gonna do, but ultimately, am I someone that I am stepping back?
Hmm.
I gave myself breaks, so I'm using the opportunity. I'm using my environment as an opportunity to grow myself, because I'm trying to be true to who I say I want to be.
Hmm.
And that's something to really look out for. Who are they going to be, whether you're in the picture or not, whether you get married to them or not? Because ultimately there's but so much change. And I know we went more in depth in our previous episode. There's but so much change. You can change a person. You can only nudge them and guide them or encourage them to becoming who they are already on the path to becoming. And there's this quote that I saw. I don't know if it was a book or reading, but essentially it said that a book or a reading. I was gonna say a show or a movie. Anyways, there was this quote that I saw. I don't remember if it was like a book or a movie, but it said that one of the most impossible or the hardest things to change is a made up mind. So if somebody has determined who they want to be, there's but little you can do to change that.
Yeah, you just have to accept them for who they want to be. And if they're not the kind of person that you see yourself ending up with, then that's okay. You can let them go. If it's already quote unquote, I don't want to say too late, but if you're already married to that person, then we always fall back on loving the person. Like, you're already in marriage, you've already like tied the knot, and you already won with this person. So we forgot to touch on this in the last episode, but now it's not the time to ponder on whether they're really the right one or
Oh,
not.
I'm sorry. I wanted to explain when he meant by fall back on loving the person, he didn't mean by like reduce the amount of love. I think I also misinterpreted it. So
Oh, no, no, no.
yeah,
Like that's your default.
that
You
yeah, you
should
just
default to loving the person
ultimately just
regardless.
love them.
Yeah, regardless of how they act, because at that point you're already married, and that union takes precedence over anything else. However, if you're still searching, then ideally you want to make that choice and decide that this might not be the best person for you before you dive too deep into the relationship with the person. So sometimes you might have to change up your list, the list that you made to find the right person or thinking of the one. Sometimes the things you have on there are not, they might be good for you, but they're not the best in terms of finding someone who actually embodies the right things. So you could have a lot of physical traits in there, you could have a yearly salary on there, and you could find the worst human being who fits that height, fits that, is making that much money, is going to the gym, is has whatever type of body, and you're miserable even though your list has been met.
Sometimes you just need to sit down with the list that you've made and determine if what you find as important is actually important. You know, this is where you really sit down with people that are in relationships that are what you envision yourself being in, and just talking to them, hey, based on what I've written down, what stands the test of time? So you need to be able to to differentiate certain things that would eventually fade away, or certain things that will shine brighter.
Mm.
For instance, someone of integrity is going to shine brighter than someone that goes to the gym, because we have all had seasons, well, not all, but we, most of us have had seasons where we were in a physical position that we wanted to be, and then life happens, which it does, and we decided not to for, you know, this season of our life. But certain things, where it comes to someone that is wanting to be an honest person, it's a very much, it's a lot harder to change, it's a lot harder to waver from.
Yeah, and you have to be a little open-minded but firm on the most important things. So last time we were saying that the more requirements you put in on your list, the less and less and less people fit that, until you're left with zero. That's why they had this social experiment where they asked women what kind of guy you're looking for, what race is he. They would tell them, um, what does he make a year, and they're putting all these things into an app, and then it tells you, hey, like 0.01% of guys fit this criteria, which means you're delusional, you're looking for someone who does not exist, and you can fall into that trap the more things you add. So not saying that you shouldn't have some of these things, you shouldn't have a guy that you dream of who has this body, or a girl who's this height, or can cook, or whatever. Like those are definitely beneficial in a home, in a marriage. But any, like, there are way more women who can cook than there are women who can be your wife. And if you're a lady, same goes for you. There are way more guys hitting the gym than guys who can actually serve you as a husband and love you the way Christ loves the church, and be willing to lay their life down for you. So, what is really important to you? You need to sit down and reflect on that. And if you've been in past relationships, try and find a common thread. You know, what was going on here? Why didn't this work out? What was I looking for? Why is it that whenever I look for this kind of trait, it ends up backfiring, or it doesn't go the way I wanted to? Maybe
Right.
that's where the problem is.
Right. And honestly, a lot of these traits usually come as a package deal. Someone that is true to their word tends to be someone that is dependable and values dependability, someone that is honest, and vice versa. You have someone that doesn't really take responsibility, being someone that is more careless, someone that is more and with the carelessness comes dishonesty, and just comes a lack of control.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying that, you know, someone has to be perfect and have every good quality,
Not at all.
but there's a level of maturity when you're dealing with certain people, where you understand what you're getting, you understand what you signed up for. And what a lot of people forget when it comes to being open-minded, and when it comes to having genuine characteristics that stand the test of time on that list, they forget that they're not picking for themselves. You know, when you choose somebody, rarely is it for your contentment, for your
Mm,
happiness. That's not what marriage is about. It's about the life you're going to build. It's about the impact you're going to make together. It's about the children you're going to have and how who you pick affects them.
mm.
So it's a very, if we are able to see it from a very non-selfish point of view, it gives you such a profound, like, it sets you up for success
Yeah, you start
essentially.
thinking generationally rather than,
Exactly.
okay, so the person is gonna be hot for the next what,
we
20
look we
years?
look good in photos.
Right.
That does not
Right.
cross your
That's not
mind.
gonna ensure that your kids are well taken care of, that they have a great mom, that they have a great dad, that they're trained up in the right things, in the
Yes,
word, in the truth. You
yes.
know.
The
The,
things that you value, the things that the things that make your mindset, the
mhm.
things that you want to pass on. Their mom also has to have a similar or like-mindedness about
Right.
that.
Right. And I think we said it a few episodes ago that you have to think of, let's say, your daughter. Like when I think of, if God were to bless us with a daughter, would I be happy if she turned out exactly like you? And the answer is yes. I would be excited if my daughter turned out to be exactly like you, because you're loving, you're caring, you're giving. And so those are all the traits and more that I want in her. And so it makes sense to marry you,
Join,
right?
right, right.
And vice versa. So thinking in that way, it's like, oh shoot, like this decision really, really sets up my future for the
Right.
next 80 years, and then my kids' futures, and then my grandkids' futures. Like you're creating a whole branch of your family line. So you have to understand what they would need and also what you need for your life. Sometimes the people that we want are not the people that we need. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. That is so true, because a lot of the times we forget what we see as an ideal life for ourselves. A lot of people, for instance, if I'm someone that wants to travel and I want to preach and I want to teach, I want to speak and all these things, say I want to sing even, I need somebody, the person that is most compatible with me, someone that pushes that,
Mm,
someone that encourages that, not someone that only believes that a woman's place is in a traditional home. Now,
mhm.
if I'm someone that I want to be a stay-at-home mom, and I'm not trying to have anything be more acceptable, but based off of your life and your goals, if I want to stay at home and raise my kids, and I just want to minister to my family and take care of my husband as well, then I also need to be with somebody, not someone that thinks a woman should be
A girl
out there
boss.
making
Yeah.
changes and making an impact in terms of out there,
Yeah.
but someone that also values a traditional wife, someone that
Mm.
sees beauty in that, and someone that truly appreciates that role.
Yeah, in a word, what you're talking about is alignment. Do
Yes.
you guys align? So let's say you start with a huge pool of people in the world. You've narrowed it down to the kind of person that you believe God is leading you to. You've narrowed it down now, the kind of person that you see around you. There's like different levels of the kind of person. So now you found a few, and it's like, okay, one of them has way more ambition than you do. So they're gonna drive you further than you want to go, and you're gonna drag them down. You have to be honest about that,
Right.
right? If
Right.
you marry someone who has way too much ambition, it's good for, it's like, let them be who they want to be. Don't try to change them.
Don't make them reality. Don't try to pull them
Don't
down
try
to
to put them there and make
reality.
them realist. Yeah, they have the ambition. Okay, so that person is out. You want to be, let's say, a traditional wife, or you want to be a girl boss and an entrepreneur and things like that. Okay, who aligns with that? Now, similar paths, not necessarily similar careers, just mindsets and things like that. Okay, what are your values? What is the vision? Your values are things that you hold dear. They're your core. They're true to the core of your being. Do you value human life? Do you value a baby from the womb to the tomb? What are your values? What do you see as a non-negotiable? Is that person embodying that? What is also your vision? Where do you see
Do you
yourself and
want
your
a big
family?
family? Do you want
Uh-huh.
a small family of one or two kids? Do you?
Oh my goodness. Like when we started dating, we are like, oh man, okay, loves kids. And I mean, I love kids, but I didn't know I loved kids that much. I was like, we're gonna have 10 kids. And then we had the first one, we're like, this is enough. No. No, we're yeah. But exactly. Do you want a big family or things like that? Where do you see your family being? Do you want to live in the country? Like, we're not saying every
Everything has
single
to be
thing needs to
perfect.
perfectly align, but
No.
we're just giving ideas here.
Right.
The things that you deem important should align with the
Right.
person, but also understand that don't have 50 things that you deem important, because the word priority means the first thing.
Right.
What is the priority? These days they say priorities. It's not really a thing. That's like saying how many things can be first. It's just
Mm.
one,
Mm.
so
Right. And honestly, just to touch about, even there's certain things that you find valuable. There's certain things that you find important. For instance, it's not, you need to get to a mindset of, for instance, when we talk about health and fitness, and not just looking for someone that is going to the gym, but rather than I want someone that is built a certain way or goes to the gym, get to the core of it. I just want someone that values their life. I want someone
mm,
that values health, someone that wants to live a long life.
mm,
Because you could have someone that, say, goes to the gym and God forbid something negative happens, and their true mindset on life comes out, where
yeah.
it's like, oh, I just did this to look good. I just did this, not
It's a
because,
surface level.
exactly, it wasn't with the core of, I just want.
Oh, we could make a whole other episode on like the whys. We
Right.
have the what's, the characteristics that you're looking for, but the whys, why? And when we were setting goals for this year, that was really a big thing for us. Was, yeah, we want to do this and we want to have this, but why? When you get to the root cause, and if it aligns with your values and your core principles, you'll find yourself naturally walking towards that, because there's an internal compass that's pushing you towards it. You're not trying to attach something to yourself that is not a part of you.
Mhm.
So I think that's a very important point that you raised up for sure.
You flow.
What?
I said you flow.
Anyway, so
And honestly, what a lot of people don't realize is that there's certain things that, from an outside person looking in, might make you seem incompatible.
mm,
Oh, this person is a sports person, I don't care about sports. That's not what we're talking about when we're referring to compatibility, but essentially, do your values, are you compatible in your values? And that's what you need to be checking for. Not things like, oh, are they an anime lover like me? All that stuff is not is I mean, you want to pass anime to your kids, great, you can do that whether
yeah.
your spouse loves anime or not. But when it comes to things like, is this person gonna raise honest children with me? Are they gonna raise, children that have strong minds
hmm
with me, or financial literacy? Is that something that they value, or something that they're willing to learn more on? That's deeper
That's a
than,
big one. How they handle finances.
exactly, and and ultimately securing their future. So there needs to be some differentiation of compatibility as to, oh, we both love anime
Yeah, those
versus.
are hobbies. Like, you can have different hobbies.
And rarely do people have the same hobbies that they had
Y-
all their
Yeah.
lives. You
Yeah,
you
and you can
explore
bring
life,
people along. Like, you
right?
can bring your person along if they want to.
Or you can
Like
have
Oge,
friends along.
Oge hated, not hated. Oge didn't like Marvel as much when we started dating. But guess what? I made her watch all, at the time, was 18 movies up
And I
until
loved
Black
all of
Panther.
them.
I made her watch all of it, and she was like, you know what? I really like this. And then,
Right. And
now
there
we're Marvel nerds together. Same thing with anime, but like, she didn't have to do it for me to feel like she was the right person.
and I
Like,
don't
that's her
like
point.
golf.
Again, yeah, you don't like golf, but I took up an interest in golf. So again, keep first things first, and don't take this to a level where it's not supposed to be. Like, don't try to line up every single thing in your life with the person. So I think we're done for today. But before we go,
Oh
babe,
my goodness.
what do you call a bear that's stuck in the rain? A drizzly bear. All right, guys. We'll see y'all in the next episode. Be sure to send us a DM on Instagram, or send us an email, vowsandvoicespodcast@gmail.com, with any questions or episode ideas. We're open to it. Catch you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.